again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Hi Steve, Kevin Carr here. Just to say congratulations to you and the NUFC Matters podcast on reaching your first year anniversary. It's a very informative podcast. It's great to hear, and also great to hear from a lot of the old boys who are on there speaking about the experiences they've had whilst playing for Newcastle, our great club. Congratulations again. Keep up the good work, and here's to many more future years of the NUFC Matters podcast. See you soon, mate. Cheers. Bye.
Welcome to NUFC Matters, and yes, as Kevin Carter has quite rightly put it, it is our first birthday, and happy birthday, lads. 1 year on from that very first show with me, Mitch and Steve Hastie together. This is our 53rd show. Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself, lads?
Certainly does.
It does.
Yeah,
and Ian Mearns has become a popular part of that journey. A lot of the fans enjoy Ian's input, and great to have you with us tonight, Ian, to celebrate with us. And we've got a few more messages to come from former players throughout the night. I've had a busy week as well, of course, by trying to provide the viewers with some great insight with ex-players. Obviously, we had the delight of Alan Shearer last week to kickstart things, but the likes of Gavin Peacock, Rob Lee, Warren Barton, Lee Clark, Steve Howie, all been with us. Nobby Solano, obviously we had the guest appearance by Tino and Mirandina, and then we've got Gillespie and Tino special to finish off with on Sunday. Potentially one tomorrow, not 100% yet, but we've more than surpassed the 7 players in 7 days. But it's been a fantastic week, and thanks to everybody who supports us. Thanks to everybody who watches. Lots of people saying this is their favourite show. This is the show that kick-started it really and made things work. And Mitch, want to thank you really, because you and I basically started off on the old Instagram, didn't we? It was us who just basically we started talking for an hour. You on your balcony, me sitting on my sofa, and just chewing the fat about Newcastle on Instagram, and we were pulling in 800 to 1,000 viewers.
It's crazy, isn't it? It like I say to people about talking about this show, it's just mates having a drink talking about Newcastle United. That's the way I view it, and that's the feedback I love getting when I see people saying, this is just like talking with my mates down the pub. I feel like I want to join in with the conversation. I want to join in with the conversation and carry the conversation on. That's all we've ever wanted to do, is just to provide a platform to do something like that. And I think certainly for me, in the last year, I've done 14 days in quarantine here on my bloody balcony. I've done, I've done all sorts, and it's kept my spirits up as well, knowing that there's a community out there that we can all interact with and have a good crack with.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, you came slightly later to the party, but not much later. We got you on as a guest, and then you stayed ever since. It's got to be the longest guest appearance in history, but we did say will you come on and join us. And I've got to be honest, Mitch and I were we'd enjoyed the crack we'd had for a couple of weeks on our own on Instagram, and then moved on to here. But you've been, it's been fantastic having you as part of the journey. And it wasn't us who picked the 3 Amigos title, of course, it was the people watching.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it's been great. I mean, from my point of view, it was very similar to you and to Mitch. It was just a chat. It was just something to do because, the lockdown, the whole COVID situation. Like Mitch, I had a 14-day lock-in as well during this period. And it's been great. It's just been sort of, even if we've just been raising a topic for people to talk about, Steve, and created a conversation that other people have been able to join in with on other podcasts or on other shows that you do. I'm not saying we've led the line. What I'm saying is that we've created a dialogue and we've created a forum that continues the dialogue right across. And the main topic being Newcastle United.
Yeah, I think, look, Gallagher Shots, Newcastle Fans TV, all of these other podcasts that were there before us, you know, we're not in competition with them. We never set that up to be in competition. And, you know, I was delighted to see Gallagher Shots getting a few ex-players on. You know, people were trying to make that into a war on Twitter. It's not. It's people stepping up their game to, you know, to give the fans what they need during lockdown. And I think that's a fantastic thing. And the fact that the likes of Alan Shearer decided to come on our show first, then go to Gallagher Shots, and it shows that they're in touch with the supporters and they want to help everybody. And yeah, Alan's got a raffle to sell, and it's over 100,000 now, which is absolutely fantastic. You know, £100,000 in less than a week, you know, is no mean feat for a shirt, a pair of boots, and a captain's armband. And your tickets are still on sale, by the way, £10 a ticket. Get yourself onto the Givergy site. That's on till the end of February. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's just great, and I think, I've got to be honest, looking at ours, Ian, I think it's really down to the fact that it's probably an older generation. We've probably got a few of the older fans who maybe didn't come online and didn't go on YouTube and until lockdown have probably found something for them, you know, because the other channels are probably, you know, they're run by younger fans, and you know, I think it's probably just an older clientele who maybe is, you know, tuning into this one.
Well, quite possibly. I mean, you know, with you three lads sitting there, you know, I feel a bit like D'Artagnan. I've come to the show a bit late, you know, but I'm a bit old to be D'Artagnan, I think, you know. But no, I agree, Stevie. You know, I think it's just like it's like chewing the fat, you know, with people that you know, and from my perspective, people I respect as well. So you know, it's good crack, and you know, and it's I think. Sometimes strong opinions, but expressed in such a way that, you know, that it shows respect between each other, and I think that's good. That's good, you know.
Yeah, me too. Well, as I say, it is our birthday. We have got a few messages which have been sent today, so here's another one.
Cheers.
Oh, hold on, that didn't quite work out, but we'll start again. There we go.
Steve, happy birthday to you and NUFC Matters. Hope it's the first of many. Cheers.
That's great. That's from Peter Beardsley, of course. So we will play a few more of them throughout the night. But let's kick off with the big debate today, which, of course, is Alex Bruce. And Chippers is straight in with, evening all, I don't condone the death threats, but why did TalkSport allow Alex Bruce to paint all Newcastle fans with the same brush? I'm annoyed, as all he has done is nothing but Gordon Trollis. Now, yeah, big debate today, Mitch, because Alex Bruce has had his say. He's been on to TalkSport, and nobody condones any abuse that Steve Bruce gets, any death threats like that. It's bang out of order. But Alex Bruce has gone on and he has really tarred most of us with the same brush, unfortunately. And you've got to go through his Twitter account if you're not blocked, and basically see that he has had a pop at Newcastle fans on more than one occasion, you know. That doesn't mean it's right, what people have been saying about his dad, but, you know, he's, you know, in a lot of ways, there seems to be a lot of people saying on the timeline tonight, you reap what you sow in a lot of ways, Alex, you know.
Look, let's get this out there. There's no right-minded Newcastle fan at all would condone death threats for the manager. At all. And that's not representative of me, of you, or of anybody in our fan base. And if there is somebody in our fan base that's done something like that, as a group, we will condemn that. There's no doubt about that. However, the reporting of it, look, TalkSport go out at times to be deliberately controversial. You know, thank God I'm in a different country and don't have to suffer it on my airwaves as a station. But there's also been other media reporting of it that's been sensationalised and painted as if it's the entire fan base is doing it. I think about probably something like 90%, 7% of our fan base will be quite happy to see Steve Bruce removed from his position. But
there's another message coming, Mitch.
Happy birthday, NUFC Matters.
Another legend, Liam O'Brien. Big thank you to you for sending that in, mate. But go on, Mitch.
No, and so the media can't portray that it is the entire fan base. That's not a fair way to portray it. And when it comes to Alex Bruce himself, yes, he's given it out left, right, and centre at times, and so to then go on and sort of play this card is a little bit disingenuous of him, in my opinion. But at the same time, we do have to address it, that if there's been any death threats of any kind, any serious matter like that, we can't condone that as a fan base, and nor would we ever. And I don't know any right-minded fan who would do that.
No, Steve, it is wrong, but Alex Bruce has come out and had his say. It was expected that he would at some point. I've got to say as well, there's been a lot of coverage on Sky over the last few days as well. With regards to this, and the managers all had their press conferences today, as they do before the weekend's games, and all basically saying the same thing. These anonymous accounts need to go. There needs to be some kind of clamp down with the social media companies, Twitter and Facebook in particular. It's at least it's a positive. It's something which we were championing before Christmas.
Absolutely, Steve. And from personal experience, what happened to me yesterday, and what happened to Keith at NCSL. At 7:31, Keith's account was attacked, and there was 10 attempts to hack into his Twitter account. At 7:33, there were 10 attempts to hack into my Twitter account. Luckily, we had two-part verifications both set up. I was gobsmacked, quite frankly, but it shows you that we do have a certain section within our fan base who are, actively trying to cause damage to other people, to rake muck, to find information, to really just upset the apple cart continuously. And that bugged me immensely yesterday. I had to spend hours trying to get to the bottom of why it would happen, what had gone on, what I could do to stop it, what I needed to do on my other social media accounts if I had any, how I needed to protect my laptop, my phone, etc., etc. And it's a pain in the backside. And I'm not the only one. I wasn't the only one. I heard of other people during the week who had similar attacks put in. And I don't know what the cause of it is, and I don't know what the mentality is of the people who are trying to do it. And I suspect that those are the same sort of people that throw abuse left, right, and centre right across the community, the football community. And I think we should also remember this isn't just Newcastle United that it's happening to. And Mikel Arteta said that his family had received death threats earlier in the season as well. But I didn't see that all over the back page of the Daily Mirror. But I saw the Newcastle United attacks. Now, let's get to the nitty gritty of this Newcastle business. This isn't something new with Steve Bruce. This is something that I'm aware that's been happening since probably the latter part of 2019, and the club's been aware of it as well. It's been mentioned at various diversity meetings that I know of that have taken place. The actual topic has been discussed. But what I would say is that the club could have done something about this very, very early doors, and so could Steve Bruce by coming out and talking about it publicly and talking about what was going on and asking fans like ourselves and other right-minded people to realise what was happening. But you've got to remember, Newcastle United develop a siege mentality about everything. And I don't know why they do it, but they have right across the board for years now had this siege mentality where they just go into their shell and let things happen and let things occur until it reaches a crescendo and reaches a point where they suddenly come out with various statements. And they could have done an awful lot more to let us know way back, as I say, nearly 15 months ago when this sort of thing started. And obviously started with a very, very small minority of idiots out in the fan base. And it's, I suppose it's probably up to like-minded people like yourself, Steve, and Ian in the political circles, and Mitch and other fans on other podcasts to start to really clamp down on this sort of abuse happening. We can do an awful lot, but the club needs to work with fans. We need to know about it. We need to work with them and get this eradicated from the fan base and from this tiny minority of absolute idiots that are out there. Because I don't think it's a reflection of the real fans in Newcastle United. It's a reflection of a certain section of idiots in society that need to be stamped down on.
Yeah, Ian. It's good to see that some of the powers that be, people who are influencers, managers, big name players are now starting to have a pop. And Piers Morgan might not be anyone's favourite journalist, but of course he has a lot of followers and a lot of power on the programme that he presents each day, Monday to Wednesday. Anyway, he's always been a bit work shy, never works a full week. But yeah, I mean, even he's had enough, and he's having a pop now at these people and saying enough is enough,
Yeah, I think that's entirely right. Look, I mean, the police will investigate genuine death threats, but when people are wishing people dead or wishing people to catch a nasty disease or a virus, I mean, that's, it's just beneath contempt, But the thing is, at the same time, I've got no doubt about it. Some of the people doing this stuff on social media might be people who tell the world that they're Newcastle fans. Well, I wish they weren't, but that's one thing. But secondly, it could be fans of any club. I mean, let's not forget, Steve Bruce hasn't been universally popular at 11 clubs that I can think of. So I can't condone this. I absolutely condemn it. But I'm afraid to say it's the world that we're in, Stephen. You've done your program about it, which I've commented on. Unfortunately, we've kind of the Pandora's box is open and stuff's flying out of it, and it's going to be very difficult to put this horrible genie back into the bottle. I'm afraid. It seems to me that a whole lot of prejudices and bigotries which were being suppressed by individuals have just been unleashed in the last couple of years, and that things have got a lot worse in that last couple of years. And I think it's a great shame. And I just wish people would use some restraint and, just take a deep breath, count to 10 before you press the send button.
I mean, I had this one this week. I mean, I don't know who this guy is. Got no idea who he is. Obviously, it's an anonymous account. It's just, somebody who essentially just gets up one morning and decides that he's going to have a pop, And I really just don't understand, I don't understand, the mentality of somebody to come on and do that, And, you can, if you're struggling to read it, it's wanker, haven't an effing clue. I'm sure your wanker backing group will agree with you. Why don't you get real fans on your shit shows? Now, that's the first thing that guy's thought about writing in the morning. So I just put, happy to have you. I'm happy to have you on the show tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That was my response. But, it is crazy. Anyone who does that kind of thing is seriously, got an issue and they need to wake up. That's my mindset. What I am going to start doing, if I get something like that, I am just going to pleasantly reply. But we will have a feature on the show on a Friday. So back to Mags, well done. You are the troll of the week. Thanks very much, mate. Mitch, back to you. Back to you on football news. Callum,
little point. You had a little pop at me this week as well about you too.
Oh, about me? Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
I must have upset him in some way or form. Maybe it's when I was a doorman, I knocked him back on the door or something like that, or chucked him out of a bar. Who knows? Anyway, enough about him. He's had his 5 seconds of fame. What about Callum Wilson? It's a big blow. We've talked about this till the cows come home all season, mate. That if we lose Callum Wilson, it's going to be a blow. He scored 10 goals, 5 assists this season. He's now out, possibly for 6, maybe 8 weeks. And we haven't got anybody to replace him.
Huge blow. Because he's been able to score in situations where other strikers in the same situation seem not to have been able to. So somebody's going to have to step up to the plate here. Victim of this crazy fixtures list that I know some people wonder why the managers are complaining about it. But if you look at the stats, if you play, I think it's if you play 3 games in 25 days versus 3 games in 30 days, you're significantly more likely to pick an injury up. And that does come back down to one thing: squad management, which is something I've whinged on about on here before. but at the same time, he's genuinely our only goal threat. Yeah. And so he pretty much, if he's fit, he's got to play. I don't think we've got any choice in that. So it was almost inevitable that he pick an injury up. 6 to 8 weeks is not brilliant, but it could have been a lot worse, I guess. But somebody's really going to have to step up now.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, it's a huge blow. Callum Wilson's gutted as well, obviously. We might get him back in for those last few games. But yeah, big blow.
Huge blow, Steve. Absolute huge blow. It's not just his goals and it's not just his assists. It's the way his link-up play, the way that he helps the transition of the team when they're moving forward. The spaces that he creates for people coming through. Everything about his game is vital to Newcastle United. And normally you would think that there would be somebody available within the squad, because that's the way that you would build your 25-man squad, that you'd have someone of equal stature or equal ability or with an equal style of play that can slot in and take his place. But unfortunately, we don't. We've got a number 9 who isn't a number 9, who prefers to play out on the left, who can't decide whether he's a midfielder or a striker and is stuck between a rock and a hard place. We've got Andy Carroll, who's a totally different striker, and we've got Dwight Gale, that is like sort of a little fox in the box. And we've just managed to put in some performances playing with a formation that seemed to suit, with Callum Wilson up front, with the Almirons and playing behind them, and with San Maximum coming through, with Fraser wide when needed to be in certain games, and with a tighter central midfield, with 4 at the back. And now it's all gone, because we've now got to use those square pegs and stick them into the round holes and hope that we can produce exactly the same sort of performances. So yes, people have got to step up to the plate. The coaching staff have got to look at what they've got, and they've got to come up with a style of football that they think will suit the personnel that they've got available now. And this is where they earn that corn. There's no two ways about it. We could talk from the cows come home about who should be and shouldn't be playing, but at the end of the day, the people who are getting paid for it are Steve Bruce and his coaching squad, and we'll see what they can come up with.
Yeah, it's a big blow, Ian, Callum Wilson, and from our perspective, we could see this coming a mile off.
Well, it's dreadful. I mean, first and foremost, having said that, by the way, I think we should actually give the team a significant amount of praise, because I must admit, heart in my mouth, biting every fingernail. That last half an hour, we were down to last 45 minutes, really. We were down to 10 men, then down to 9 men, and you can't fault anybody in the 9 that were left. I mean, even Joe Linton, I thought played really quite well in that being in the front 4. But to lose Wilson is a massive blow. It's not the fact. It's not just the fact that he scored goals, because he is a good goal scorer, and he creates assists. But he creates space for other players breaking from the middle as well. He always takes a couple of defenders with him. I think if you remember his headed goal against, was it Everton? Where he peeled off and nodded it back in. I thought that was a great goal, and he is a very, very good player in the box. And the other thing about him is he knows how to use pace in order to help the whole team break. He can be an outlet and hold the ball and allow the whole team to break. I think he's a really, really good player, and I think it's proved to be at the price. Not a snip, but I think a very, very, very good acquisition from our perspective, and will be a big miss. I mean, the question from our perspective is what do we do now?
Yeah, go on. Well, I'll let you start with that, because that was going to be my next question. I mean, the Chronicles headline, I didn't read the article, but it was something along the lines of throwing down the gauntlet to Dwight Gale, Joe Linton, and Andy Carroll, but I mean, that is it. That is what choice. Or you go with a false nine, play Fraser, play Almiron, and play St Maximin. But what would you do, Ian?
Well, bear in mind you've also got Willock to come into that, and I thought Willock had a good game last weekend. If he can keep that form up, you can add him to that mix in terms of a sort of box to box midfield player. I mean, the thing is, I would play footballers. I would play footballers, and I'm afraid to say Andy Carroll looks like it's kind of physically. And from a pace perspective, beyond him now. And Joe Linton, I think you could put him in his left position in that formation. But I'm afraid to say that I think it's putting an awful lot of weight on Dwight Gale's shoulders. I mean, I think he was a very effective striker in the Championship, but I really, really do question whether he's got the Gale and the pace in the Premiership to be a regular goal scorer. He may get us the odd one, but the thing is, we need more than that. And I'm wondering, therefore, whether you play combinations of your attacking midfielders as your strike force. I don't know.
What do you think, Steve Hastie? Is it, is that the right way forward, or would you go horses for courses like me? I think it's, you can't really say this is what we're going to go with. I suppose you pick each game as it comes.
Yeah, you do. But I'd like to see Sean Longstaff back. I'd like to see the Sean Longstaff that we knew who could play in that number 10 role, given a little bit of an outlet as well. If you were going to not play Gale and you were going to do something with Almiron, San Maximin as a combination up front, in the same way that Joe Willock, the way that his goal the other night that he scored, last Saturday, lovely goal, just an understand between striker and midfielder, left-sided, pulling the ball back into the edge of the box. And I don't see any reason why we can't have Sean Longstaff playing in that particular way and Matty playing in that particular way. And I'm hoping that those two lads will learn and grow from seeing Willock come into the team. And it might appear that he's there to replace them at the moment, but I would like to think that there was something could happen in that regard in those positions as well. Gale for me is the one that you'll be looking to as first option, because I think that Carroll slows the game down too much, and I don't think that Joe Linton gets involved in a striking position enough. I think Joe Linton tends to be playing a lot deeper, a lot wider, and I don't think that the hold-up play is what we're looking for. I think we're going to have to play a different style, and probably the nearest you'll get to a Wilson, where a player can have the ball played up front to him, and he can lay the ball off, and then he can spin and turn into space. Is the sort of thing you'll get from Gale, rather than, as I say, the Joe Lintons or the option of an Andy Carroll. I wonder whether he'll look at who the opposition is and who we're playing and how the opposition sets up, and whether he'll start looking more at that from a tactical point of view, or whether he'll just go out and just go, well, he's out, so he's in. It's going to be an interesting few weeks, because we've got some interesting games coming up, Steve.
Yeah, Mitch, what would you do if you were manager of Newcastle United on Monday?
For me, it has to be Gale. I think he's the only genuine number 9 we've got, other than Wilson. That can keep the game going at pace. The point about Carroll slowing everything down too much, I think, is quite valid. For me, I've spoke often on here about how I feel that the Joe Linton wants to play in that kind of false 9 role. This could be the opportunity, but I don't think he's got the confidence nor the backing of the fans or the backing of his manager to do that. And so I see that as a non-starter myself. Ian's quite right. He did put a little bit of a shift in to get over the line in the last game. Everybody did, which is a positive, I guess. But for me, it's got to be Gale, because he's the only genuine striker we have.
Yeah, okay. We've had some communication from the club this week, Mitch, with regards to season tickets. What did you make of that?
As ever, it needs somebody like Steve to unwrap it and explain it, because the communication from the club continues to be variable in quality, unfortunately. Aye. You know, it communicating with the club has become, as Steve says quite rightly, it became entrenched a long time ago. And so whenever they put anything out, it's always a little bit timid, a little bit vague, and doesn't really answer much often. And it's sad that, you know, people like us should be here to try and make sense of it all. But I remember doing this when we were setting the trust up, trying to explain things that the club was saying to people. Because, you know, same as it ever was, the Groundhog Day when Newcastle United.
Aye. Right. But by the way, Stevie, I was really delighted to see Liam O'Brien before, but instead of just standing there, I would have thought you would have him going over the wall.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, look, it's lovely to get these messages from some of our ex-professionals. Here's another one here. Another guy who's been on the show and a big supporter.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, NUFC Matters. Happy first birthday to you from the mighty Mick Quinn.
Great stuff from Mick. Thanks very much, mate. Great to have him on. Of course, my all-time hero from back in the day, and somebody who I've kept in touch with and done a few talkings with. But great to have Mick Quinn and his support as well.
You know what I loved about him, Mickey Quinn, man? Honestly, he had an unerring knack of hitting the target. You know, he just got, when he got in the box, he got his shots on target. You know, and okay, not everyone was a goal. Then they never are. But he just had a fantastic aptitude. When he got a chance, his chances went on target, made the keeper do some work. You know, great from that perspective.
Before I come to Steve on the season tickets email, Ian, you were on national TV again this week. You managed to get a question in to the Prime Minister, and you've bumped into Rhys Moggs again, I hear. The Prime Minister, you get drawn occasionally to ask a Prime Minister's question. So I was asking him about, rail connectivity, because it's important for the North East economy. And then, of course, I was sort of crossroads with Jacob Rees-Mogg on a Thursday morning. He's leader of the House and sets out what the parliamentary business will be. And then I chair a committee called the Backbench Business Committee. So I cross swords with him every Thursday morning. And of course, later in that session, after I'd done my bit, he was caught on camera talking about Weetabix with the MP for Kettering. And it seemed to go viral. The BBC tweeted about it. And so we know now that Jacob Rees-Mogg doesn't like Weetabix with baked beans. Well, who would have guessed? And we also found out that Jacob Rees-Mogg probably would have preferred some of Nanny's toast and marmalade for his breakfast rather than Weetabix or baked beans. Well, isn't it marvellous? Of course, he is a Catholic lad, Jacob Rees-Mogg, as well as being very posh and very rich. But I remember having an exchange with him when he had his sixth child, and he called his sixth child Sixtus. So, as you do. And I said to him in the corridor in the Commons, I said, congratulations, Jacob, and hope welcome to the world to Sixtus. I said, will there be a Septimus and an Octavia on the way anytime soon? No. Brilliant. It's the corridors of power. We'll get some great stories from there. Cheers, Ian. Good stuff. Steve, we don't get the letters dropping on the doormat anymore. We'll get an email from the club. That's if it doesn't go into your spam. Come on then. Neil was quite happy to pass the book because he knows you can dissect this and give us a full running commentary on what has happened and what should have happened.
Just typical, isn't it? I mean, to be perfectly honest, I haven't had any communication with the club on ticketing since I think it was October when Thomas from NUST and myself were in a Zoom conference with a couple of other supporters talking about what club were going to do, asking them what their plans were for giving refunds, because it was obvious that they'd taken money out of people's accounts since February and we hadn't been any games since March. So I remember at that particular one, Thomas and I sat down and entered into some dialogue with each other in putting together what we thought was a fairly decent plan that the club could follow. But the club weren't interested. The club had their own ideas in mind. They weren't even interested in a statement that we tried to write on their behalf, which explained in words of one syllable and less exactly what the situation was. I mean, from my point of view, I always felt as though fans were entitled to a full refund immediately. But I also felt as though fans were worried that they would not be safeguarding their seats once the COVID situation was over. And I think that was a huge, huge fear of fans. And that's why they didn't kick up a fuss. A simple statement from the club was what we asked for, which was simply to say, look, apply for a refund, get your money back, but you will not be losing out. Once this is all over, once the whole situation is rectified and fans are allowed back in the stadium, you will be back in your own seat where you've been sitting for the last God knows how many years. You won't lose out on any points because you've dropped out. You know, your loyalty points will remain from the away games that you previously travelled to. Just because you come off the system doesn't mean that you're going to lose anything. That was the most important thing. And there was also that aspect of trust that needed to be out there, because it was a perfect time for the club to enter into some really positive dialogue with the fans, understanding what the fans' situation was. They made their first announcement, I think, in the back end of October of what was going to happen, and they split the whole thing. I could understand, in a way, what they were getting at, which was that at the time they didn't know whether come January that we would be allowed back into the stadium, so they were going to do it in pieces. They were going to do it in groups of 5 or 6 games at a time. Again, I thought that, from an administrative point of view, there was far, far better ways that they could have done it. Just a simple, give you your money back, freeze everything. Even the people on 10-year schemes or 5-year schemes or whatever it happened to be, just let them know that the scheme is suspended and the scheme will carry on. And you're in year 7 of a 10-year scheme. Year 8 will start once we get back in. All of that type of thing. I've never heard another thing from them since. I presume the trust have, but I haven't been involved in any dialogue, any conversation, or seen any written communication that explains what they're doing next. And you reach the point where you go, you know what, I'll just wash my hands of it. You can leave it to your own good selves to dig yourselves out of whatever holes you want to. Don't come to me, don't come to other fans and ask us to help you anymore, because we don't get anything back. You only come to us when you're whinging, or when you think you got a problem. But then you don't listen to the problem, you don't listen to the possible solution, and you don't take advice. So, at the end of the day, Steve, another absolute balls up by Newcastle United.
Neil Straker has just put there, I sent my application in asking for a refund for the 8 games, and yesterday I got a letter with my new direct debit for next season. Turns out instead of a refund, they are taking it off next season.
Yeah, there you go, Steve.
Yeah, there you go.
As Bob Dylan would say, there's no success like failure. Failure is no success at all.
Steve, the other problem is as well is when they do stuff, they put caveats on.
Yeah.
That people sometimes don't always really understand. Or it's like, well, if your middle name's Septimus and it's a Wednesday, then you're entitled to this. However, if it's a Thursday and you own 4 pairs of socks with stormtroopers on them, then you can have this. And it's like, it just gets overly complicated so quickly when it should be clear and straight to the point.
Yeah.
And it never is. Never is.
We had a Zoom meeting in the last time I met the club was with the remnants of what was the fans forum, and that was in December 2019. We had various meetings, 4 meetings in 4 days during Christmas week. on the 4 topics that they decided that were now going to be part of what the remnants of the fans forum could talk about. I'm still waiting for the minutes, by the way. I've had no communication whatsoever, be it from either the diversity, be it from the ticketing, or the other 2 groups that they put into place. I've heard absolutely nothing. I haven't had any emails. I haven't checked my spam, but well, I have, and I can tell you that they weren't in there, right? But then you see that happened in the December. And yeah, okay, I've given them 90 days, and it was March when the whole thing went into furlough and people disappeared from the club for 3 months. And then when you come back, you just thought, you know what, it'll be off the agenda, it'll be gone. And sure enough, you know, one Zoom meeting that there's been, which was to try and help them with ticketing, and nothing since, absolutely nothing since. It's just sums up the 13 years of the hierarchy. You know, I fought to get that fans forum into place. I fought to keep it in place. I've argued with various journalists over the last 2 years since it went off the agenda and it was stopped, because they no longer get the headlines, because we no longer get the questions or the opportunity to sit in front of Lee Charnley and ask him questions on various topics. Right across the whole spectrum of being a supporter of Newcastle United, not just about diversity, not just about ticketing or whatever. You know, we asked them questions that they didn't enjoy answering, but they had to answer. And the press got 5, 6, 7 days of stories out of it. You know, headlines in the Chronicle, articles, columns, and not just the Chronicle, but the Mirror and the Star and the Mail and the Shields Gazette, etc. And it doesn't happen anymore. And they wonder why all of a sudden the press guys are sitting there going, well, we're not hearing much from them. They're hearing even less now, and some are even getting banned, and they're not even allowed to ask questions themselves. What does that tell you? You know? So, you know what, Steve? Let them get on with it. Let's hope this isn't going to last for very much longer. Let's hope a takeover does happen, and let's hope that they're out the door and we get a whole different system with a whole different regime, with people with a totally different mentality on how you treat football fans.
Yeah, it is a farce, Ian, isn't it, the way things are run at the club still to this day?
Well, shall we say that public relations has not been a forte. Mike actually took over. I think that, you know, and you know, along with public relations, customer care. You know, we've got 40,000 plus season ticket holders, and you know, last season we had 10,000 people getting in on free season tickets with the hope that they would buy season tickets. But we've got 40,000 plus season ticket holders, and you know, they are customers of the club, and that customer care is absolutely dreadful. You know, I mean, there is no other industry, and there's probably no other outlet in any other industry which treats its customers the way in which Newcastle United have treated its supporters and its fee-paying customers. It is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, if Mike Ashley's retail outlets treated their customers the way in which Newcastle have treated its customers, Newcastle United treated its customers, you know, he would have been out of business a long, long time ago. Social media would have been going mad, you know, saying crap customer service, don't shop here, blah, blah, blah. You know, but you know, we've got no choice, because when Newcastle United supporters, and he's got a closed bubble of Newcastle United supporters who will keep on coming back no matter what, and it's been proved. You know, okay, there has been a drop-off, you know, 10,000 or so season tickets, fewer being sold than used to be. But the customer care is abysmal, frankly.
Yeah, 100%. Question there for you, Mitch. John Askew. He loves a takeover question. He says, lads, another one of my painful takeover questions. How is Man City's takeover different to ours? And why can't a state own a club? 2 questions in one for you, Mitch.
The one difference is that Man City's owner set up a sport and investment company separate to the Abu Dhabi Investment Fund, with a specific intent to invest in a football club. ironically called Abu Dhabi United when they went and bought Man City, but that's another matter. But that's the principal difference. In the same way that Qatar own PSG through QSI, Qatar Sports Investment, which again is a separate company under the umbrella of the National Investment Fund for Qatar. So that's the one significant difference. It's not a massive difference, but it is a difference.
Yeah.
Why can't the state own a club? Well, again, the whole thing about MBS wanting to be named as a director, well, in my opinion, simply comes back to piracy, so they could turn around and say what the state were doing with BOQ was state-sponsored piracy, and therefore would disqualify this on the basis of that. And once the piracy issue is solved, I am convinced, 100% convinced, that they'll no longer be asking for that to be a part of any ownership and directors test, even though it never was or should have been in the first place by their own rules. But that's another matter. That's an entirely separate answer. So that's my view on both of those questions.
Okay, Steve, anything to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would add is what the Abu Dhabi Investment Fund also did was that they handed over 100% control of Manchester City to the existing Manchester United chairman. You know, he was told, "This is yours. You go and run it. You report back to us, but you run it." And he's got 100% control of what goes on.
But he is also a member of the Badler Fund.
I was just about to say he's reporting back to them, but what they've done is they've been able to separate the two very cleverly from a commercial perspective, from a commercial point of view, that not just a day-to-day, but the week-to-week, and month-to-month, and year decisions are made by him and him alone, alongside his board. He then has a responsibility to report up the line as part of many, many other people who are running investments on behalf of the Qatari fund, the Abu Dhabi fund. So, you know, it's a clever little bit of business pitch that they've done, a little bit of business spin that got them out of a hole. And I think that the difference between ours and theirs is that, well, they set up in exactly the same way as ours was planning to be set up, but they very, very quickly flipped it and very, very, very cleverly turned it round. Probably at the time when the questions started to be raised by various other football clubs within the Premier League and in the Premier League board. So at the end of the day, as Mitch says, we've just got to work this through, see where the piracy aspect leads us to. Hope that this gets resolved quickly, and then maybe we can get Thomas from NUST in running the ticket and get that sorted pretty damn quick, because it's people like Thomas and other lads, Steve Walworth, who does fantastic, you know, travel the world, understands exactly what the problems are, and we can get people like that coming in to talk to the football club and to be not just listened to, but have their the knowledge acted upon to put these things right, Steve.
Yeah.
So that we don't get in situations. Use the fans, use the knowledge of the fans in the same way as
Steve.
I saw somebody saying. I was going to say the same way as I saw somebody saying. Well, it wasn't somebody; it was Alan Shearer saying on another podcast. You know, new owners involve ex-players as ambassadors to push the. You know, would love to be involved from a worldwide perspective on promoting Newcastle United, because it's in our blood, and we very much want to be part of it as well. You know, so it's not just the silly ticketing. It's not just the ambassador, but it's right across the board. Listen. If you listen, then you'll get answers that will work for you.
And you know what it is, Steve? This is also, it's not a new thing either. No. I remember, you know, going back in time, speaking to Biffa in the Bodega before games, and how many problems he was solving, you know, because he knew the problems that people were facing and were giving them the workarounds that the ticket office should have been giving them the workarounds for. And yet there was him answering probably, you know, upwards of 10 to 15 queries a week from people who, you know, needed to solve a problem that they had with ticketing or something like that. And that poor bugger was doing it, you know, free, gratis, and with with no other help. And he's been, and how many times have we did it when we first set up the trust? The trust was handling stuff, carrying it to the club, and then coming back to the fan. And it shouldn't be like that. We should have people in place who can immediately see and understand, because they know it from personal experience, how you know, the problems you're going to face and what those workarounds eventually are. Sometimes the simplest solutions are right there in front of them, and they go round the houses.
Yeah.
My favourite ticket story was my brother went up to the ticket office. This is many years ago, and he went in and he went to buy 2 tickets for an away game. And the guy who was behind the desk was tall guy, had a moustache. And he goes, I'd like 2 tickets for Barnsley or whatever it was. And the guy goes, right, okay. You know, he needed to check some details. And off he went away in the back. And Robert handed over his money. And then, anyway, he's still standing there. And there's like this, there's nobody comes. So you remember, it was just like a window. And then there's a woman comes back to the window and she goes, can I help you? And he goes, yeah, I'm being seen to. She says, well, who's seen you? He says, well, I don't know the guy's name. It's a guy with a tash. She went, there's nobody with a tash works here. And I was like, me brother, I was like, well, I've just handed over some money for these tickets, and there's nobody. So it was literally 10 minutes before the guy came back. Where he'd been, what he'd been doing, nobody knew. But I went, if anything sums up the bloody ticket office, they work with each other and don't even know what each other look like. So what chance have you got of getting tickets right? But yeah, it was a source of amusement for many years with me and my brother. That story, like,
I really feel for the box office staff, because they are working with shocking software on the computer systems, and you know, they've just got all the time problems to sort out, which have been created by the way in which the software doesn't operate to the benefit of the customer. I mean, you know, I've over the years done an awful lot of trading with the box office on behalf of my friends and family groups and that, and honestly, sometimes, man, you're hunting tickets. You know, you've got no idea where the tickets have gone. You know, the tickets should go to the person that buys them on behalf of the group, but quite often they just go off to season ticket holders, and you're buying tickets on behalf of people who you've agreed to meet in London, who are already in London, and the tickets are gone to their house. It's honestly, the amount of nightmares I've had trying to track down tickets that we've paid for, and sometimes they just have never ever materialised. And then on the Friday before a game on a Saturday, you're having to get an agreement that you can go to the box office of the away club and pick up the tickets which haven't materialised. Honestly, man, it's they haven't. Well, you know, look, the staff, as I say, are working with awful software. I think they do it incredibly well, but it's all because of just not investing in the infrastructure of the club. It's just awful.
Well, that brings us to that question, really, which we can continue, I suppose, lads. Alan Thompson, he says, do you think under Ashley, do you think the people will say these 14 years have been the worst in our history going forward? I feel myself it is due to the lack of ambition. So, I mean, is it the worst 14 years, Ian, or has there been worse, do you think?
I think after the 74 and 76 Cup finals, we went into a period of decline then, which was frankly awful. And you've got to remember that we had a crap stadium, we had really crap directors then as well. You know, we had all sorts of protests going on time and time again. Quite often we weren't in the top league, and at least under Ashley, when we have gone down, we've bounced back. Believe it or not, folks, I think it probably has been worse, or maybe I was less tolerant then because I was younger. I'm not sure, you know. But it's all about context. But the trouble is, you see, leading up to that period, you know, of course, we'd never experienced the Keegan years, we'd never experienced the Bobby Robson years. You know, we never experienced the ground being full and the excitement and the ground being redeveloped. You know, that excitement that was generated. You know, obviously, we got to the 74 and the 76 Cup finals. We'd won the Fairs Cup in 69. But I thought that period in the 90s and leading into the early 2000s was a really, really exciting period in the history of the club. And this probably feels much worse because of that, but probably the period before that was worse.
Yeah.
I'd agree there, definitely. And you go back to the 74, 76, and then 77 after the cup final, after Supermac had been sold, after Gordon Lee buggered off and went to Everton on a Saturday. I think we were all in the ground at 1:30, 1:45, and when the announcement came that Gordon Lee was gone, and then Richard Dinnis took over, then there was the players' revolt. You look back on that time, the sack the board, the protest. I mean, the amount of protests that have occurred throughout our history. The number. I mean, I remember one protest where a lad ran onto the pitch and planted the flag. Then there was another game where we got cancelled. The game was postponed because somebody went on and painted graffiti all over the pitch for someone who had been jailed. There was all sorts of crazy things that went on in those particular days. But we're only paying £2, £3. Well, it was a little bit more. It was like sort of 70 pence a quid to get in. But if you remember, Ian, in those days when they announced the crowd and they would go 28,342, and you were jam packed in like sardines, and everybody knew that there was 10,000. The money for 10,000 had gone in a little brown paper bag by the turnstile guys, and we used to laugh about it, but history showed, and we've heard stories from many, many people over the years about how that was not a myth. It was, it wasn't one of those urban myths that occurred. And you go back right through the 50s, because even in the 70s, they still had the boardroom mentality of the late 40s and 50s. And the brown paper packets and brown paper envelopes that some players would find in their shoe, but other players wouldn't, depending on how they played, depending on what had happened in the smoky room of the boardroom when they decided to give something extra because they wanted to keep them happy or keep them sweet and that type of thing. But they had the control over those players at that particular time. And you look back and you like exactly what you said, the state of the ground, everything was rife for the problems that then occurred on the terraces in those particular days. And when Keegan came back, I mean, it was great in the 82 to 84, the excitement, and then we lost it. But when Keegan came back, and then he started to build something, and we had Sir John Hall there doing what he did, it kind of went sour, didn't it? Round about 2004, 2005. We'd already had earlier in that time, we'd had the sort of the Shake Gate situation and the slagging us off about how much money we were paying for the shirts that Freddie and Douglas had put into the press and all that type of thing. They then resigned and then they came back. But once Souness took over and then that disastrous, absolutely shocking performance that we had at Cardiff, and it was basically downhill from there in terms of the amount of fans that were lost, the amount of fans that just gave up, and the sort of whole attitude of fanzines and fan, not so much fan groups because they weren't around in those days, but the fanzine war, or not war, but war with the club that was created around about that time that just carried on. And I mean, Steve, you were in a perfect position as running fanzines and producing your own, and you know what I mean about that particular aspect. And Mitch was writing for fanzines, I'm sure, at that particular time as well.
Yeah.
So it became
making yourself very popular.
Yes, exactly. But you guys, you're in the perfect position to be able to talk about that because you were there then. You tasted it, you felt it, you suffered from it.
Well, I mean, let's not forget, by the way, in that era, we had Lord Westwood, and then we had McKeague, and I think Westwood was president of the Football League, and then McKeague was chairman of the Football League, I think, and the thing is, McKeague was chairman of the Football League, and Stan Seymour asked directors to put money into the club. I can't remember, it was either £5,000 or £10,000 each, which they all would have been able to afford, but the majority of them walked away. You know, they'd been taking money out of the club, hand over fist for donkey's years through the sort of systems that you're talking about, Steve. You know, under reporting gate receipts and all the rest of it, and then when they were asked by one of the directors to put money into the club, half of them walked away. You know, unbelievable.
No, we've got a long history of uncommunicative, difficult, obstructive, and stubborn chairman, owners, and board members. You know, we've had players go on strike in the 60s, you know, all the way. It's all the way through everything that Steve talked about. And I think, Ian, you made an interesting point that I'll run with. We've got a generation of fans who have contrast. Whilst we're being told we're unreasonable and have unreasonable expectations. Bearing in mind, it's not that long ago, Shola Amiobi had more Champions League goals than Spurs.
Yeah.
You know, and we can remember Champions League nights and really genuinely bloodying the nose of the big boys, Barcelona, Juventus, you name it. We've had them at St James's Park and beat them.
Aye.
And it's not unrealistic as a fan base with a generation who can remember doing that, saying, hey, we'd like a taste of that again. That would be quite nice. We enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah.
That's all. We're not saying we want to win it. We're saying we really enjoyed it and would like to go and enjoy it again, perhaps. And then we're told that's unrealistic, where Spurs, to a point, had never kicked a ball in the Champions League, and people were saying, oh, you know, they're in the hunt for the Champions League this year, this is where they should be. Well, beg your pardon, get the back of the queue.
Well, Mitch, I've made the point before, you know, I mean, you know, for my 50th birthday, my mates got me a Newcastle United shirt. It was one with a shield on, the black shield on the back. And on the black shield, I got the letters 50 and underneath the letters, the numbers 50, I got full stones. So 50 full stones was me birthday present. The trouble is that shirt's now 14 years old in April. You know, wow. So like you know, I'm 64 in April, and we haven't won a domestic trophy in my lifetime, and yet we've got a ground which regularly gets filled for every home game in the Premier League. You know what it is? We are unique. There's not another club in the world. I would defy anybody to tell me of another club anywhere in the world where they fill the ground every home game for a league game and they haven't won a domestic trophy in over 60 years. There's nowhere like that.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. Well, Mitch did mention beating Barcelona in the Champions League. I will have a Barca reunion on Sunday night. I've got Keith Gillespie, Tino Aspria and an interpreter, and that's for Tino, not for Keith. So yeah, that'll be around about 5 o'clock. Just keep an eye out on the socials for the information on that. We have got another birthday message before Ian has to shoot off and make the tea.
Yep.
Hi, this is Dan Jackson. I would like to wish NUFC Matters a first happy birthday and hope things go well in the future. Thanks again. Bye.
Darren Jackson, another top lad who we've had on the show. Big thank you to him, and thanks to all the ex-players who've made an effort over the last 6 days to come on and help us celebrate our birthday properly with some great interviews, some great insights, and the most important thing, answering your questions, the questions which you've put forward. It's given me a bit of time off. People are saying, you need a rest after this week. Well, I don't, because it's been your show. All I've had to do is press a few buttons, introduce it, and get you on. But it's nice for you to be able to ask questions to these people. I get a chance to do it all the time. It's nice for you to do it. We are going to start... well, obviously we've got a regular feature which we do each week. We've got two and Lookalikey, which is going to go first just before Ian goes. Now Mitch does select this. He puts a lot of hard work and effort into it, but he was gazumped early on this week on the Retro Show, and this was the shout that we had from Mirandina. John Gibson and Steve Hastie. Now, this is interesting because Mirandina came on the podcast, as many of you will know, and the lads on the Retro Show were really shocked. I did it as a bit of a surprise. And he started talking to Steve Hastie, saying, John Gibson, it's great to see you. You've done lots of good for the fans. So Mirandina's gazumped Neil this week. A lot of people saying, have we actually seen John Gibson and Steve Hastie in the same room? Well, yes, we have.
Yes, we have.
There they are.
That's brilliant, that one.
That was when Steve used to dye his hair. And that's exactly, yeah, back in the old days. So
that was around about 2009. I think that's Malcolm Shields, who was the chair.
Malcolm Shields, Mark Jensen.
And then Mark Jensen, and obviously John there. And of course, that was when we did the More Than the Trust campaign, I think. I can't read what's on that there. Mitch can probably tell. But that was the time when we did the road shows, and we used to go around and we used to do all the road shows as well, Mitch, wasn't it? You know? And John was there John went to nearly every road show we did, and John was absolutely fantastic in that particular era. And still is, by the way. Don't let's not beat about the bush. John is black and white through and through. But the support that he gave to the NUFC and NUST at that particular time was fantastic. You know, you couldn't ask for better support. You honestly couldn't. He was an absolute diamond.
He was a gem. Yeah.
But that wasn't the lookalike. This was Mitch's lookalike. Who's that? Joking here, and who?
Joking here. The fairy godmother.
The fairy godmother. So that completes that section of the show for this week.
One of your best guests, though, Steve. One of the best talkings you had was when Joe was on the stage with you, wasn't he? You know, he's a charismatic guy. He's a good talker, and he tells some great tales. And he's a
great night.
What happened and why he came and all that type of thing.
By God, did we need him that night, because we had Gordon Lee there who got booed from the start to the end, and I thought people might have been a bit kinder to him, but good job. His lass was there to defend him.
I think that was Ian that was laying the booze. I think it was all the lads from Gates.
It definitely was. Before Ian goes, Ian did send us this, which made us chuckle. Great lad, mind. Ian, you sent us that, didn't you, on What's Up this week? Brilliant. For football, full of Newcastle at the bottom there. Brilliant. We will be looking at tweets of the week in about half an hour's time. But Ian, been a pleasure having you on, mate. As always, look forward to seeing you again soon.
I've got a story before, and it's a Steve Wraith story from when you were on the doors, Stevie, right?
Yeah, all right, go on.
Will you tell me if this is true or not, right?
I will, yeah.
There was a night when you were on the doors and you were confronted by a group who were from Northumberland University's Southeast Asian Students Association.
Wow, okay.
And there was a Burmese, a Cambodian, a Laotian, Vietnamese, a Japanese, a Chinese, a Malaysian, an Indonesian, and a Singaporean trying to get into the club, right? Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't let them in. And you said, I'm sorry, lads, you can't come in because you haven't got a tie.
God almighty. Honest to God.
Yeah,
I feel like cutting you off. I'm gonna do what was that woman called who presses the button and knocks her off? Yeah, it's one of them. But that's a good way to.
30. Yeah, Jackie Weaver.
I'm expecting your chair to turn over backwards.
That's it, Ian. Great to have you on, mate. We'll speak to you again soon. Probably get you back on next Friday if you're up for it.
Cheers, lads. Take care now. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Take care, mate.
Good to have him on, and good crack. We have, thank you to our sponsors, got another competition. So, just want to give a shout out to Spider VPN first and foremost, who are sponsoring the StreamYard application throughout the month of February. Also giving away a Spider VPN on each match day, so keep an eye out for that on Monday night. And we also want to thank qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle. Also make our t-shirts, which you can buy at newcastlelegends.com. Also a big shout out to John at Jab Signature, who designs all of our flyers and posters. Now, qtechshop.co.uk gave away last month £100 worth of M&S vouchers. Well, I'm pleased to say they are back again with another Friday competition. And this month, they are going to give away £100 worth of JD Sports vouchers. So that is your big prize giveaway. Win something tasty with Hastie. And this week's clue, so it's exactly the same as last time. You get a clue each week, and then the final week, you have to put them all together to get the answer. So this week's clue, make sure you write it down, is... Okay, Tyne Bridge and the word lawn. So write down your answer. I've got a feeling this is going to be a bit more difficult than the last one. But yeah, that's your first clue. I will show that again next week. We got another few weeks of clues, and at the end of the month, you'll have to put them all together and come up with an answer. But big shout out to John from qtechshop.co.uk once again for doing that for us. Absolutely great. Mark Tulip says, wasn't a dad joke, would go as far as a great granddad joke. David Collins said, go and make the tea. Taxi for Moons. Dad joke, says Julie. Everyone having a chip in there. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, where do we go from here? There's lots of people talking about different things on the chat. We always like to pick out something different. Try to go down a different avenue, and I'm struggling because a lot of people taking the mick out of Ian's joke. David Collins says, when we get new owners, surely Rafa will come back to crack on with the project. It would be like getting Bobby Robson 10 years earlier than we did do. With hope and belief restored, Rafa gets it. Gary Robinson asks, is it true Brian Johnson offered to invest in the club? Yeah, it is. Under the original Magpie group. There was a few people actually wanted to put money in, but yeah, it didn't get called on eventually. Carl Hope, just referring to what we were talking about before, says the major difference with the 80s protests and now is the fans were united back then 100%. I would probably agree with that, to be honest. Steve, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I mean, we had a united cause. You know, it was sack the board. One, 3 words, sack the board. You know, we also threw in Westwood as a pirate earlier in the late 70s as well. But maybe today with social media we wouldn't get away with that type of words when we would get slagged off for it. But yeah, it was sack the board. We wanted change. And we also had some very, 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 very good people around at the time. Like the Malcolm Dix, who could rally something. Malcolm was a shareholder at that particular time and was desperate for change. He could see the vision. He had the vision of what was needed to take Newcastle United forward. And because of people like him and Peter Radcliffe, we were able to do that. The club was able to eventually get to John Hall in, and it's. If my memory serves me right, it took those guys an awful lot of convincing of John Hall to actually step up to the plate. It didn't happen instantaneously, Steve. It happened over a period of quite a number of years, and we always seemed to be at loggerheads. And the club tried their own share release at one particular time that didn't get picked up on. So it was a traumatic time for the football club. But I think what you've got to remember was that it all came together. Despite Sir John taking over, it all came together with Kevin Keegan coming back, and despite everything you say, the most important thing is what happens on the pitch, and he did it on the pitch. He managed to save the season, save the club from going down into the depths of what was the second division at that particular time, or in fact, not even the second division, probably the third division, and then was able to build from there with the support of a board who were on board with him, no pun intended. So when everybody's working together, fans, club, manager, players, then things happen. Things happen, and that's just a dynamic that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And we were lucky, weren't we? We were lucky that we had someone like Kevin who could do it, and perhaps Rafa's the man who can do that again. I know that there are people out there who think, no, you should never come back. There's people who are critical of the style of football that he played. But at the end of the day, he played that style of football because of the resources that he was given to do it. And I'm sure with added resources and an opportunity to build on the project that he was creating and people buying into it with him, that we could do something.
Yeah, Dicker Rivers has just sent us a message on Twitter saying, Steve, loving the show tonight. Can we suggest we don't draft in Gale, Carroll or Joe Linton and just play Fraser? Man City are playing Foden through the middle. No recognised striker. We need pace and a high press. Lots of opinions on that tonight. I've got to be honest, I would go for that. The only issue I would have with it is that, you know, does Steve Bruce have the nous to play three small guys and then not hoof the ball over the top of them? You know, it depends on whether Graham Jones has got the reins, you know, which we'll keep alluding to and keep talking about on here. Let's switch it around. Did either of you watch the Ben Jacobs interview? I mean, yeah, you have. Okay, well, Mitch, if you've watched it, tell us your thoughts on the Ben Jacobs interview. Of course, he was on Gallagher's Shots. You know quite a bit about Ben Jacobs, a lot more than I do.
Which is why I haven't watched it.
Okay, then. Well, Steve Hastie. Why I haven't watched it. We'll come back to you then. Let's hear Steve Hastie. Steve Hastie's watched it. So what was your take on it? I haven't watched it, but if anybody does want to watch it, it's on Gallagher's Shots.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, he's a wordsmith. He can put a point forward very, very eloquently. He was on for quite a while. I think it was an hour. He's quite amiable chap. He's, you know, like I say, he talks a good talk. As you would expect from someone who's been in the media limelight for so long. You know, he's a commentator in women's football, in the EFL. He's worked for BN Sports. He's worked for ESPN. He had a spell at the BBC, which I'm sure Neil knows all about. And he is well known. And like I say, he talked, and he put some very, very interesting points forward. I thought that every point that he put forward also had a, you know, if you were sitting in the middle, then he went from there, and then he went to there, and then he settled in the middle again, and it carried on with every question. I didn't learn anything new from what he was saying. I was surprised at some of the things that he came out with, because they were different to what I was aware of. His insight wasn't. His insight comes over as absolutely spot on, but then when you start to question it and you start to extrapolate the stuff that he's saying, you realise that there's not that much substance to it, or that there is contradiction, or he's just repeating what somebody else has already said many moons ago. So I'm not sitting here going wanting to slag the lad off, but I'm not at the same time sitting here going, you know what? I've now changed my mind and we're going in this direction or that direction. I'm still sticking with what I know, and I think what I know is certainly stronger than the opinion that he put forward.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fine. And Mitch, you haven't watched it because you do know him.
Well, know of him. I've met him. The way the Dubai Village works, we have a number of mutual friends and acquaintances. Some of the people in sports media over here that I know him far better than I do. I've heard some interesting and varying opinions. As somebody who was banned from life for working for the BBC, and I'm not gossiping there, you can just Google it, it's out there. His time in Dubai was, you know, interesting, talking to people here. He does speak very well, absolutely. But as Steve says, when you dig down into what he comes out with, he kind of hedges his bets and positions himself very, very well. But that's his craft, and that's what he is good at. And so I find it difficult to watch anything with Ben in and not carry my own little bias about it, which is why I've sort of tried to stay out of it, really, because I have a little bit of information bias. So I'm more cynical to what he says and the way he positions himself sometimes, even when he speaks very well. And I actually know that the information he has is at times very good because it's coming from similar sources that I have here from sports media in the Middle East. You know, he's also though very good at embellishing things and putting a particular spin on things that could be easily misinterpreted to his advantage.
Well, I mean, he did something with Andrew Musgrave at the Chronicle, didn't he? But that was hastily removed for some reason.
He did a podcast with the Chronicle, and I think it was up for a total of 48 hours.
Wow.
And it had to be taken down again. And Andrew, I think, is still quite angry about that.
Okay.
I had a little chat with Andrew last week.
Angry with him for what was said on it, which was fake news.
Which were downright lies.
Okay, right, okay. Well, that's...
And provable lies. And so, again, that is things that bias me unfavourably. So it's why I just haven't watched it, because I didn't really want to get into a debate. I also don't want to sound like I'm trying to slag people off at Gallagher Shots who've done a bloody good job this week of putting some fantastic content together. You know? So I don't want to sound like I'm being sour grapes here.
It's been a good week for the fans.
Quite the opposite. It's been a fantastic week for the fans, and big up to Chris for the work he's put in this week, because I know he's knackered.
Yeah, NUFC 360 have just done Shearer as well. So, I mean, Alan's doing the rounds, which is great, for him and the charity. And, if he doesn't, what would be nice if he could hit 250,000, 250,000 for the 250, the 250th goal.
Absolutely, Stephen. I think credit to you as well, because I do believe that it was because you suggested that Alan went and spoke to all the different fans, media out there, all the different fan lots.
You've got to. It's the right thing to do, mate. It's the right thing to do, because it gets the message out.
It's for the charity. It's to get that message across. And the fact that Alan has done that, I think, is absolutely brilliant. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing in everything that Alan's doing, it's not the fact that it's Alan's shirt, it's not the fact that it's Alan's boots or Alan's armband. It's not the fact that they're going on podcasts or doing anything. It's the fact that the money raised is going to an absolutely brilliant cause. And it shows the generosity of Geordies, and it shows the generosity of football fans around the world who are willing to support what Alan has put in place since his testimonial. And that is it's a reflection on the man himself, but it's also a reflection on the supporters of Newcastle United and football worldwide. That they're wanting to get behind this to help families in the Northeast who benefit immensely from an absolutely fantastic place, and the families who need that help, they need that respite help that they're getting. It's absolutely brilliant, Steve.
Yeah, no, and please get your tickets from the Givergy site. Check Alan's Twitter out. 250th goal, match shirt and boots and armband, £10 a ticket. Let's get it over the £200,000 mark, and then hopefully on towards the 250,000. That would be absolutely superb if we could do that. And it's going to a wonderful, wonderful cause. Andy Barr's asking, do we collect programmes from the matches? I used to as a young'un. Do you, Mitch? Are you a program collector when you were going to the match?
Used to be. Nearly all my memorabilia and stuff got eBayed before I came out the Middle East, because it was just going to sit in storage for an indeterminate amount of time, and it might as well go to somebody who appreciates it. I tell you, he was a good collector. As my good mate Tim Gleave, he's got some cracking programs from over the years, from all sorts of different games, and not just Newcastle United games either. Some cracking cup final games and things where he's got the programs that are probably worth a pretty penny these days. So my mate Tim's he'll sometimes look at the program and give you an idea how much it's worth.
Yeah, definitely. I've just had a message from Jackie, who asked us last week, and I did do it on the Matchday Live, but you mustn't have heard. Hello to David Hopper. I hope you're enjoying the show. He's watched the show from the very start. They've just sent us a photo of me, actually, at my mother-in-law's in my old Dorman's gear, which is a cracking photo. I've never seen that for many, many years. But thanks for that, and I hope you're enjoying the show, David. Steve, are you a program collector?
I used to be, right the way through, like sort of, from the 70s onwards. Every game you went to, you got the program, and then you got the Football League review that was inside. Remember that they used to tell you?
Yes, I've got a load of them.
Loads of them. Mitch doesn't realise, but his dad's buying programmes for every game we go to anyway. So he thinks he's I think he's just doing it so he's got another stock of stuff that he can flog on eBay in a couple of years.
Probably.
But George gets a programme every game. I occasionally pick up a programme. There used to be a guy who used to come into, if you remember, Steve, come into the Irish Centre, who used to be in the Platinum Club, and he'd come up with armfuls of, and he would dish them out to us all. So we stopped buying them because we were going to get one for free anyway if we were quick enough. And do you remember that time when we were sitting in the corner and he dished them all out and we missed out and we were good because we were at the bar and
we're gutted.
We were absolutely gutted. And then he, if you remember rightly, in the Platinum Club days, in those days, they used to give the little badge as well. And he came up to it later on. He goes, "Lads, I didn't get your program. Sorry about that. Somebody else does. I've given it to the young kids over there." And we went, "Oh, that's all right." Anyway, but he can have a badge instead. we got the little lapel badge, if I remember rightly. But if you're recalling, I mean, you go back to the sort of Sir John Hall days. They had the black and white magazine that the club used to bring out. We used to do the DVDs. None of this happens anymore. We don't get anything on the internet, but you don't get, obviously, I think sort of the whole social aspects changed. But we used to get DVDs of news and reviews that used to come out every month. The black and white magazine that came out that the club used to do, that you used to be able to buy at the newsagents. I've got a haversack and all sorts of stuff up in the loft of programs and magazines like that, and the old VHS videos of those games. You know, I found a batch. I actually found the 1992-93 review on a C90 of commentaries of that 1992-93 season, but I have got nothing to play it on. So I'll have to find a little Walkman. So there's bound to be a Walkman lying around now. I'll have to listen to it sometime, you know. But yeah, I mean that was, again, I think we got absorbed, didn't we? And this is another aspect that the club under Ashley's never really got, that marketing side of Newcastle United. How, you know, we would buy anything that if it was tinged in black and white, if it had Newcastle United on. So John Hall and because he learned from, you know, Freddie Fletcher was the man who understood what marketing was all about and how you marketed a football club and what it meant and what you could get and people would say exploit, and I suppose that's a sort of tenuous word to use, because we wanted to buy the stuff, we wanted to be part of the football club, we wanted to know. Shirts. I mean, lads don't buy shirts anymore. You know, you would buy track tops, you would buy shirts, you would buy anything, and you would buy it not just for yourself, but you buy it for your kids. You know, the wife, whatever, hats, scarves. I mean, there's people living out of it now, just on that sort of memorabilia side. But it should just be a given that you're going to buy this because you've got this love for your football club, and for some reason it's not happening, and it's because of the owner, and ironically an absolutely masterful mogul of being able to exploit the rag trade, for want of a better word, but he can't sell stuff to Newcastle United fans. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Adam Telford, good evening. I see you're having a few comments with various people in the chat about Ben Jacobs. Mitch didn't like him. He's just explained exactly what his views are, and we've supported Gallagher's shots for their efforts this week. So we're not having a pop at them either. But again, you are entitled to your view, and you put it across always very politely. So I've got no issue with what you've got to say, mate. Always two sides to a story. Mark Bayer says, why do other podcasts see everything as a competition between podcasts? They rarely praise others, but you lads praise them. Strange. I really don't know, Mark. But let them get on with it. If that's what some people get off on, then that's what they get off on. I'm not really interested. I know that I've had a exchange of messages with Chris today from Gallagher Shots, wishing them all the best. We did yesterday, all the best, and well done on a great week. So we know that we all get on. If other people want to put something out there to suggest we don't, let them crack on. David Laws says, great week for fans on the various NUFC podcasts. NUFC Matters is by far the best. All about opinions, David. Thank you very much, mate. Look, there's something for everybody. That's the whole point. NUFC 9 Talk, the Dom does. It's different. Adam Pearson's show, it's different. Look, nobody's got the divine right to, to say we are the best. We just do what we do. I use my contacts and put them on. I've got time to do it at the minute. I saw a comment before, are you going to continue to do it? I don't know. I can't guarantee that I will be able to continue to do it because my life might be completely different. I might not be here. Who knows what's going to happen.
We've just go back to work, Steve.
I might have to go back to work, instead of sitting in my kitchen. But, look, just enjoy it for what it is at the minute. There's no grand scheme. I don't plan for tomorrow. Never mind next year, next week, whatever. It's lovely to be able to celebrate our first birthday with everybody. And, it's absolutely great that the ex-players have chose to, branch out a little bit and do a little bit elsewhere. I'm not going to be able to get every ex-player. Some ex-players I don't have contact with. People asking about Keegan. He won't do it. Do I have his number? Yes, I do. I keep in touch with him. But, unfortunately, some people will and some people won't. I have asked quite a few people this week, and the ones who said yes are the ones who've come on the show. The ones who maybe are too shy or for whatever reason can't come on or won't come on have maybe sent a message. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone has had time this week. But I will be getting one or two on over the next few days, and then when we get back into the summer, when everyone's bored stiff because there's no football, and if we're still in some kind of lockdown or tears, the lads will come back on again in the summer, so we'll have something to entertain you with during the summer as well. I'll keep doing it. I enjoy doing it. The lads enjoy doing it, and just thanks for all your support. But please don't make it.
I enjoyed doing a little bit of something with Matty from the Magpie channel through the week because he's.
I forgot about them, the Magpie channel.
For a couple of weeks or two, he's out here for a couple of months.
Go and watch them all. Go and watch them all. If you've got time to do it, go and watch them all. Do you know what I mean? I do enjoy watching the other ones if I've got time. But I haven't got a great deal of time. You know what I mean? The Athletic did one. Bestie, Taylor and Bestie, Stephen Best. They did one with Jose Enrique. You'd expect George and the guys to be doing stuff like that because they've got the contacts, but it's all down to time. It's all down to time. Have you got time? Do the players want to do it with you? I do it as a living. My company, Newcastle Legends, we do it for a living. The lads are comfortable sitting on a stage talking to us, so they're going to be comfortable sitting on the internet talking to us. Not everyone can do it. So, look, good luck to everybody. It's not a war. It's not a competition. And as I say, look, who's right and who's wrong with the takeover stuff, I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple of months. And, we've been preaching the positive. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We haven't been saying that we're in the know. I keep saying to everybody, we've been positive. And I think that's a good thing. And we need it to be positive in the situation that we're all living through. So there we go. Anyway, it's 3 minutes past 7. It's Tweet of the Week. So Tweet of the Week, as you know, Steve Hastie selects these, and we're starting to get sent them by people, and we'll get them early on in the weekend. We've had to whittle them all. We've had to whittle them down. Some of them are on tweets. Some of them are things that people have tweeted. I thought this one was quite funny. We'll not be able to read that out, but you should be able to see that if you're watching this on a TV screen, which was quite funny about Jeff Hendrick and Mike Ashley, and just well worth a look. I'll leave it up on the screen there. But we'll get sent a lot of these kind of things, Steve, don't we? And Tweet of the Week is something that the watching public have certainly grasped. But you sent me a few. We'll start with that one. It's rather apt because Ant and Deck are back with a Saturday night takeaway, aren't they, in February. So, okay, Mike, now send off Sukek, which is, it is funny. A reflection on what's been going on, obviously, in the world of refereeing this week. Again, somebody else who suffered at the hands of trolls, which isn't very nice. And which other one did we put up? That one, Sav. Yeah. Our own Sav came in with one. I've never watched the Super Bowl before, and I'm in shock that it's rugby and not bowling. Brilliant, Sav. I like it. Trying to sneak in. This one was a good one. This was early doors. Amazon Prime Video Sport. Newcastle since Graham Jones came in as assistant head coach.
What's funny about that is the fact that it's Amazon Prime that are putting that out, and it has to be taken in the jest that it is. But it just shows you the pulling power of Newcastle United. You know, the fact that Amazon want to get involved in that sort of crazy humour that it's good for football. It's good for fans, you know.
The tweet of the week, though, was this one, and it was a late contender, Steve.
Yes, it was. Yes. I've realised that I'm not a football fan at all. I'm actually a fan of cans on the train and being in a pub at 10 a.m. The actual football is boring.
And so say all of us. That's this week's tweet of the week. Great stuff. Keep them coming in. If you see any tweets, please send them in to me, Steve, or to Mitch over the course of the next 7 days, and we will try and get them out there. But always good to have those. David Collins says, watching the guests this week with obvious passion for our club has been great. Imagine if they were in and around the dressing room. What a positive difference they'd make. I wish we could bottle that up. Yeah, thanks. And I agree.
You know what, Steve? What gets me is how articulate those ex-players are, those guys that you've had on this week, and the passion that they show for Newcastle United is, you know, we've known about it for years, but they're so articulate in the way that they put their message over, the way that they talk, and the friendship, it more than anything, the friendship that was among that group of players at that particular time, the fact that they still talk about each other in the way that they do, says so much about what Newcastle United was at that particular time and what it can be in the future. And you know, it was. We all know as fans, we thought it was special. We thought that particular time was special. But when you hear the players talking about it now, 20 odd years later, you realise that they thought it was special as well, and they're so chuffed to have been part of it, and they now talk as though they're fans. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's fascinating. Listen to Steve Howie today, listening to Lee Clark, listening to Rob Lee at the beginning of the week. That was sort of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever it was. And yet it's the same thing. That it was the same excitement that they were getting as we were getting as fans, and they were on the pitch and they were performing for us. That's what we've got to remember. That's what we need to build on in the future. That we need to build on that sort of, not the slagging off Joe Linton, slagging off him, slagging off her, whatever, you know, just sort of getting back to supporting the team and getting back to supporting and loving what football was all about. I'm hoping post-COVID and everything that we can start to allow younger fans to appreciate that and benefit from it again, Steve.
Yep, I agree. Any chance of getting John Beresford back on, Steve, says Mark. Yes, he's on next week. I did try for him this week, but he's been busy. And so, yes, he is going to be on next week. We're going to get him on just to have a chat, etc. But yeah, look, big thanks again to all the players. It's been superb to have them on. And Mitch, it has been, hasn't it? I mean, we've had them all on before many times. But the likes of Warren and Rob Lee, it's great to hear them wax lyrical about Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many former players who can do exactly that, and it's quite obvious whether you're from the region or outside of the region. Once you get affiliated and embedded in Newcastle United, it gets under your skin in a way that I think many other clubs don't. You know, some of these players have played for multiple clubs, yet the one they want to talk about the most is ours, and that's the testimony to us as fans, the passion and love we give. You know. I think also come back to what Man City do, you know, when one of the things they do in their suites and boxes is they've got any number of former players who are welcome any time to come in and do the rounds in the boxes and chat and interact with fans there, and that they're all effectively club ambassadors, whether named or not. And that's the kind of thing we should have going on. We have a depth of former players who speak well, who love the region and the city and the fans and the club, and would be delighted to just mooch around the bloody boxes on match day and talk to people. And we should have a bank of them. We should use them. The guys that are sending messages tonight, you know, any one of them you could stick in a box with fans on a match day, and they'd be in their element, and the fans would be in their element as well. And that's the kind of reconnection we need once Ashley's no longer the owner. They're the kind of reconnections that are easy to do.
Yeah.
They're easy. And we should be exploiting that to create more of that togetherness that as a fan base we need, as a club we need, and as a city we need at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. Mark says, I like Warren Barton's comment yesterday about him and Rob Lee looking at each other when NUF fans sing "We Hate Cockneys." I wonder if it was aimed at them. I mean, that was funny, wasn't it, Steve?
It was great. I also liked a little bit where he said that the players would get together and Warren and Rob would go out and say, "We'll cover for you. We'll sign the autograph while you sneak out the side door." And then they would immediately tell the fans where Alan was going out so that they would all run up to his turnstile and then they could get into their cars. It's stuff like that. It's that humour. It's that sort of, togetherness that the players had, that sort of friendship and camaraderie, but also a little bit of sort of, little niggle, a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of a pee take that they could do against each other that kept that camaraderie going in the changing room, because that's important as well. The way that interaction in the changing room is very, very important, and it comes from a friendship, but it also comes from above. It comes from a confidence that you can do that type of thing, that you can mix well, and that you've got the backing of the management, and you've got the backing of the club, and because they think you can perform on the pitch anyway, I love it all. I love all that sort of listening to the passion that those players still have. But I love listening to the stories about how they got one up on each other and that type of thing. The humour. I mean, the best one, I think, one of the funniest ones I heard was who cut off the ponytail of Phil Stein, and they're still frightened to talk about it, aren't they? So
yeah.
They'll mention it, but nobody's actually admitting it, and stuff like that. And you, I mean, you just have visions of the fact that Killer still has that sort of fear factor in him that none of them are still willing to admit that they did it. But they're not willing to admit it themselves. I love all that. It's great. It's all part of that mythology, isn't it, of Newcastle United and the players. And I think that's what the players get off on as well.
Yeah. I agree. It's just, it is like a drug to them. Lots of people asking.
I was going to say, what also is the fact that you and I are now getting messages from pubs and clubs around the northeast who are saying, guys, once this is all over, I would love you to be able to put a talk in here or a talk in there. We'll do stuff for the food bank. Would love you if you could bring some players to a talk in that would love you to run, and we'll raise some money for the community. And I think that's great as well. That's absolutely brilliant. And hopefully we can do something in the next sort of 12 to 18 months that can make that happen, because we know that the players love to talk. I mean, you love to talk, I love to talk, Mitch loves to talk, but the players love to talk more. And at the end of the day, the fans want to hear them talk and not us. And it would be great if we could take this on the road and actually do something for our community as well, Steve.
Yeah, I'd agree. A lot of people asking about Keegan. I have asked him. It's it's not going to happen, I don't think. Peter With, I have put a request into his son Steve, but as yet I haven't had any replies from him. But look, as I say, some people really are comfortable with coming on these kind of things. Got one or two other possibilities. Alex G says the lad from Atlanta was a good guest, very interesting as a young player moving abroad. Will he be back on? Yes, I can certainly get him back on. There's plenty, and a lot of people asking about the long sands. I think people are preempting what I'm going to do, but a week on Sunday I have actually got the lads coming on. Trevor and Ian are going to come on, and they're going to have a chat. I'm going to play a few of the tracks, and from our perspective, it would be great to have them on. And look, I'm going to mix it up with the channel. That's the whole point. It's nice to be able to bring different people on at different times, and that's what it's all about. As you know, I've got an interest in true crime. There'll be I'm doing one tomorrow with a guy called Richard Booth, who's just written Charlie Salvador's new fictional book, so I'll be doing that at 11 o'clock in the morning. But that's what the channel's about, mainly Newcastle and a few little different things in between. Let's look ahead then. to Monday night's game, 8 o'clock kickoff, live on Sky Sports. Newcastle travelled down to Chelsea, and it's a stat that I mentioned with Gibbo and Super Mac, which you can catch up on the playlist from last night. And we've played at Stamford Bridge 25 times since the Premier League started, and in all of those games, we've won only once. And we've taken 9 points from a possible 75, lads. Wow. That tells you how hard it is to get anything down there. Squad news, of course. Jeff Hendricks unavailable due to his suspension after being sent off in the last game. Fabian Shaw, Javier Manquillo and Callum Wilson, as we know, are all injured. Wilson, of course, as we discussed right at the start of the programme, has got a deep tear to the hamstring. Shaw has undergone surgery to repair his ruptured knee ligament. Both expected to be back round about April. Manquillo, of course, who I've mentioned as well, he's going to be missing for at least 6 weeks due to ankle ligament damage. So big blows all round for Newcastle United. Lascelles and Fernandez are both possible inclusions. They've both returned to training. Kieran Clark, of course, who was on hospital duty, is available to feature once again. The pensioners, Thiago Silva and Kai Havertz, aren't expected to feature, but Timo Werner should return from injury. They have, of course, made a change in the managerial dugout. Thomas Tuchel has got off to a very impressive start after replacing Frank Lampard. So, how do you see this going, Steve? We've already talked about what we could do up front. How do you see this going on Monday night?
It's a strange one, isn't it? Chelsea are a strange club. I mean, you're a manager at Chelsea and you lose like 3 or 4 games and you get the sack. You know, after you've spent £200 million because somebody else gets the sack, and they think that person might be better than you. It's weird. I mean, what? It's just like, is that modern day football? Is that the way it goes? I'm not too sure. As someone who looked at Chelsea's team at the start of the season and spent the first 8 weeks with Werner in his fantasy football team, I'm sitting there going, Christ, thank God he's in with a chance of playing on Monday, because quite frankly his performances have been shocking. Yet the guy was outstanding in Germany last season, you know, and he was. I mean, they spent an awful lot of money on him. Is Pulisic fit? I don't know whether he's around. The manager seems to be he seems to be picking horses for courses, and he's a good manager. He's got the quality, he's got the ability. But the squad that they've got, man, Christ Almighty! If you or I took over from Frank Lampard, we could get the same results that the Chelsea managers managed to get. It wouldn't be very difficult, for God's sake. You know, it's just common sense the way that he's put the team together. You know, because he's got an abundance of riches. So the question is, has Steve Bruce and his coaching staff got the nous and the ability to actually put a team together and a performance together and an organisational structure together to combat that? And you look at the record, and we shouldn't really look at the record, because like none of those 75 games have involved Bruce are very, very, you know, other than potentially 6 points that Stamford Bridge have involved Bruce. But you would say, you know, go out, put your team together, look at what they've got, look at what their strengths are, look at what their weaknesses are, and see whether you can combat it. And that's the dichotomy that he has, hasn't he? You know, and this is why the manager earns his corn. This is why the manager gets big money. So, as a supporter, I'm thinking, right, well, you know, I'm expecting we to go and compete. I'm expecting we to be able to put performances in. I'm expecting, based on the form that we've got, that we can do something. I'm expecting, because of the fact that we could put a last 20 minutes back to the wall job in with square pegs and round holes, that you can get results. Don't go to Old Trafford fearful, to Stamford Bridge fearful. Go there with a mentality that you can do them if you want to, and take it from there. But a lot of it comes from the confidence that the manager can give. If it was you or me or Mitch that was putting the team together, you would be in there and you would be going, get into them, sort them out. You know what lineup they're going to go. You know they're going to go 4-3-3. You know who the key players are. Combat it. Stand up against them. Combat it. Be combative against them, and don't be convinced just because they play for England or they play for France or whichever other nationality that it makes them world beaters. It doesn't. It's just a name. It's just a number. It's just a title. So get stuck into them. Get stuck into them. That's what Kevin Keegan would say. Show what you can do. And they're not unbeatable. They're not a great team. They're not an invincibles. So that's why they're sitting with the league in where they are in the league. They've just got a new manager. Let's shove it up his nose. Let's get out there and I was going to say kick them off the park, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Prediction, Steve, from you?
You know what? I'd like to think we could come away with a point. I'd like to think 1-1 draw. It's very rare that Chelsea draw, but I'd like to think you could get a 1-1 draw. You could go there, get a point. There's a platform to be built on, and we've started well. We've done okay the last couple of games. Results have swung and fraud, but don't go there fearful. Go there, try and get a draw and hope for a win. But I'll be absolutely delighted if we could get a point from them tomorrow, Steve.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Mitch?
Following on from the stats that you've given, my message to the team would be, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Everybody's got you written off before you kick a ball. How much pride do you have? What do you want to give in that black and white shirt to show me that you actually give a monkey? Because you've got nothing to lose. I've just seen on the screen there, some of the bookies have got were 14-1. 14-1 in a 3-horse race. That's just outrageous. But shows you the contempt people have towards the team at the moment. My concern is what are they going to be told in the dressing room other than, come on lads, give it a go and run around and make yourself busy. I think we need a little bit more than that. Barnsley showed in the FA Cup tie, okay, albeit against the Chains team, that if you press hard and push them, they're not comfortable. And I think other teams have shown that as well. Yet, the difference between Tuchel and Lampard seems to be defensively they seem a bit more organised. So I just want to see the kind of effort we put in that last 20 minutes with 9 men. If we can put that kind of shift in again, yes, we can come away with a point. I'd be happy with a point. I just think history's against it and other things. I can't see we're getting anything, to be fair. But I would at least want to see that level of passion, that level of pride and that level of work rate. And if you put that in, you might just nick something. But I go with no expectation. But I do want to see pride.
Yeah, okay, great stuff, lads. Well, the clock has beaten us on our first birthday. Been an absolute pleasure sharing it with you guys and Ian Mearns, of course, earlier on. Slightly earlier finish. I'm going to have to pre-record my interview with Roy Jones Jr. I was hoping to do it live, but we're going to have to do it on Zoom. So I'm cracking on with that. That'll go live on the channel at 8:30, and hope you enjoy that. It's something I've been looking forward to anyway, and one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters that ever lived. So looking forward to that. But for now, thanks to everybody in the chat for all your comments, and thanks for joining us, and big shout out to you lads. Thanks for being on the journey with us as well, Mitch and Steve.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care, lads. Good night.
critics attack, it feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot save you.